Recording. And we are live. Episode 45 of the RINO podcast. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Oh, boy. Well, I got it, Kaitlin. I got me the Omicron.
It was happen. It was bound to happen.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. Fully vaxxed Jeff got the Omicron because it's 95% effective, Kaitlin. It's 95% effective. But were you boosted, Jeff? No, I wasn't boosted, and I'm not getting boosted because I just got Omicron. Well, you should get boosted. Did you wear a mask? It's your fault, you know. You didn't wear a mask. Okay.
Oh my God. Like, it's a moral failing, right?
It's a moral failing
that you got sick.
Yep. It's not a virus.
I mean, like, did anyone think it was a moral failing before? Like, if you got, I mean, like,
yeah.
The thing is, like, if you were unvaccinated for like rubella and got like rubella, like, you know what I mean?
And I love the libs on Twitter, like, well, we have a polio vaccine and a mumps vaccine. I'm like, well, those are the same diseases. I mean,
I'm vaccinated against polio, like, right? Like, I feel like I didn't get that one when I was a kid because they eradicated it through vaccination, like with like the boomers.
But
right?
You know, the funny thing is, it's like the polio vaccine kept you from getting polio. It didn't like diminish the hospitalization rate of polio.
Maybe it's a smallpox one that I didn't get. I think it's a smallpox one, the one where you get the scar. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, but I don't know which one's which. I
think smallpox is the one where you get the scar because you get the boil when you get like the smallpox little boil, and that's how like it inoculates you. But yeah, no, like, guys, come on, like, we already knew that what COVID is. It's a respiratory illness. It's like SARS, like, and you know, like, we saw the various waves of SARS in China like over the last 15 years. And
I'm reasonably certain I had SARS back in the day. So I had something. I'm telling you, I had a flu in my early 30s that just absolutely wiped me out, and I've affected my lungs poorly and left damage. I mean, I'm fine, but like at that time, oh yeah, like maybe it was bird flu. I don't know, something, but I had something that.
See, I never during swine flu. I never got sick. Like,
maybe the pig flu.
Yeah. I haven't had the flu since like the second grade. I got it really bad in the second grade. I was like out for like 3 days.
Yeah, that's what I had as sometime in my early 30s. I got a flu. I was out of work for 3 days. Bad. But
I never had chickenpox. Never had it.
I had it as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, but back.
And you know what? Wait, do you know what happened after I had them as a kid?
What did you do? A chickenpox?
No, it was the 70s. They didn't do it. You just got them. Natural immunity, Kaitlin. It's this amazing thing called the human body, the evolution of millions of years of DNA pumping through my veins and making me healthy enough to recover. And I am naturally boosted after this bout with Omicron. By the way, did you have Omicron, or you don't know what you had, but you had?
I think I had Omicron. I didn't get like super I did the at-home test. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But Jeff, like, I had basically a sinus infection. It didn't go into my lungs. Like, I wasn't like flat on my back. I was able to clean my entire apartment, but I had to be locked down for a fucking week.
That's what it takes for you to clean your apartment. Force Kaitlin into her house, and maybe she'll clean then.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No. This is actually kind of funny, Mr. Kaitlin. I joke about it. In order to get me to clean, like, and clean hardcore for like a long amount of time, I don't know what about the movie Airforce One like puts me in that mood, but like, he'll put it on and he'll be like, "Okay, it's time to clean," and we'll clean our entire apartment. I don't know. I think it's probably like the fast pace of the movie, and I'm like cleaning. I don't know.
Air Force One?
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
That's odd.
I love it too. Yeah.
That's the weird. I mean, like, you know, you could tell me like what movie makes you cry, and I could go like, okay, well, the final scene in Field of Dreams. What movie makes you feel scared? I don't know, like, you know, Terminator or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you could arguably make, but what movie makes you want to clean? Air Force One.
Air Force One. I have no idea why that movie just like I put it on and then like I just have to be busy and doing something at the same time of watching that movie.
What an odd choice. That's
really,
just odd.
funny.
It really it's funny, but it's not. Anyway, for me, I mean, look, here's the funny thing. Because I got the Rona, wasn't feeling good. I was feeling symptomatic. I had a killer sore throat. That was the big thing about it, and I kind of knew. I'm like, okay, because everybody talked about it. I heard even our friend who stole our name, the Normals, Jonah Goldberg, had this and had a killer sore throat. It was just like, oh man. So I'm gargling with warm salt water, doing the whole thing. And then I take 2 at-home tests, negative, day after day. And then I'm like, still the sore throat, nothing else. I mean, some chills, but like nothing else. And then I go get
you were hurting last Wednesday.
Yeah. That was when that was like the worst of it. Like that was that day. But we needed to get an episode. I told you. I am a last episode, right? So this is medical science for you. If you watch episode 44, you'll see me in the throes of the coronavirus, powering through like the Republican champs we are, and getting an episode out to the people because we care. And then I had taken a rapid test that day. I'd taken a test the day before, both negative. Go into the doctor's office, which is kind of cool. They send the woman out in the like all garb, face shield, double mask, N95, complete gown, outside, by the way, to my car, stick the thing up my nose, go back in, and then like 30 minutes later, they're like, okay, Jeff, yeah, you've got coronavirus. And, I'm like, okay, well, what's my treatment? And they're like, well, if your sore throat's bothering you, you can take some Tylenol. And I'm like, I want the monoclonal antibodies. I want the ivermectin. I want the remdesivir and what all. This is kind of what we're the crux of the episode. We're gonna play some video and then get into the more bigger news stories. But to our political leaders in the state of Massachusetts and in America, start focusing on treatment. Okay. Shut up about the vaccines, okay? The study out of Israel saying that the 4th shot does nothing against Omicron, you got to believe it, okay? Start focusing on treatment. This is enough of this bullshit. We got to live with this. Ignore the progressive neurotics who want to lock down everything and have wanted to lock down everything to destroy capitalism and make themselves feel good and make everybody show their passport because your passport keeps you safe, not the actual vaccine, Look, the vaccine kept a lot of people out of the hospital, but still a lot of people are getting sick. So we got to focus on treatment. All right. That's my spiel about COVID. What do we want to get into? Oh, Bari Weiss.
Yeah, well, you want to start off with
that? Let's play the clip.
That Bill Maher episode was like rather interesting.
I can't watch. Well, I may start watching him again, but I haven't watched him in years because it makes me too aggravated because during the Trump years he was so stupid, so profoundly stupid. And maybe,
well, I think towards the end he like finally started getting it that like his side was going.
He did
like,
the woke nonsense.
I think when Dan Crenshaw like just shit on him when do you remember? So like part of Bill Maher's shtick is that he has an audience, so he gauges the audience reaction like every single time he like says something or like it's like a slammer or whatever. So during COVID, he didn't have an audience, so he had Dan Crenshaw on, and he tried to ask this question to lead the point.
Yeah,
and Dan Crenshaw was like, "No,
and
here's how you're wrong." And like that was like one of the best interactions I've seen on Bill Maher, but Bill Maher's reaction to it was like, yeah, I was wrong. Like, and that was one of the things where it's like,
there's a couple things and it's weird to watch his show over time because he went from like a libertarian to uber progressive. Like imagine going from libertarian to government takes over healthcare. Like that's the curve he went. Now he sees all the woke nonsense and goes, hang on, it's free speech. I thought we were supposed to be liberals. And they're like, no, Bill. No, you're not supposed to be liberals.
Like, we're progressives. Like,
Yeah.
How dare you forget?
We've progressed past liberal. And he's still got a lot of wrong ideas about things. What I do like about him is that he will have people, prominent people from the other side, from the right, on his show to talk about stuff. He has Ben Shapiro on regularly. He had on freaking Milo Yiannopoulos, right? He had on Dan Crenshaw. He has on these people with differing points of view. One, because he knows it's better content. This is not, he doesn't want to do MSNBC. He hates those people.
Well, that's one of the things that, like, you know, like you see with like William F. Buckley's firing line, where he would like have on liberals all the time, and they would actually discuss, or like Crossfire in the 90s on CNN. Those were great shows. The American public, and especially, and we've talked about this before, cable news doesn't want that anymore.
No. Like, that
doesn't bring in their ratings, but like you go to places
it would. Look at what Joe Rogan does. Look at even Bill Maher. The clip we're gonna play, and the clips that come off of his show go around the world. And you know, my old podcast, the Lincoln Review, you know, I started it because I wanted to debate a liberal Republican, right? So Ed was on there because he didn't, you know, because I knew I could win arguments against him, because I wanted to get liberals on the show. I had on many liberals and progressives of notoriety in the Boston area. You know, Biden's campaign staff, or not campaign staff, deputy campaign manager who ran for Congress. We had a good conversation. Guys who would run for office or just be activists. Dukakis. I had Dukakis on. That's better. That's better to me. If you're going to get into that debate, you know, you and I cover. I'm using you for your prominence in social media and your flair for a phrase, but also COVID like destroyed everything, and we're doing it by Zoom. But I've told you when we've tweeted stuff, I want to invite these liberals on. They won't come on.
Yeah.
Kaitlin, you've seen the tweets I've said to like local people who, when we get into an issue, like, come on the RINO podcast. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Come right on. We'll Zoom. We'll send you the Zoom link. We'll talk about the issues. Nothing. Crickets. They don't want to do it. Liberals do not want to debate. They want democracy as long as their party wins, and that's about it. They want power. Because I don't think, you know, Kaitlin loves owning the libs, as they say. Would love to have a liberal on here, a progressive on here, to talk about stuff.
Like, if we had a conversation, I'd be like nice and congenial, and like, but the thing is I will ask questions that will, you know, make a point or force you to give your point and be straightforward about it. I think a lot of liberals don't like being asked these pointed questions. And so when they do, they get mad. Like, you see Nancy Pelosi get mad when she gets asked pointed questions. You see Chuck Schumer get mad when he gets asked pointed questions. Joe Biden gets extremely mad when he gets asked pointed questions and completely ignores them and then tells off the journalist. Not unlike how Donald Trump used to. So, yeah. Do we want to get into this clip?
I just want to say, to wrap it up, I think there may be come a point where liberals stop going on Maher's show. I mean, I'm probably not, because he's prominent enough. But but locally, look, any progressive of some note with a decent social media following, you're welcome to come on here and debate any of the issues we're talking about anytime. But you won't. Sue O'Connell won't. Jim Browdy has on, you know, it's a completely liberal panel. So does Sue. So does what's his face, Keller. You know, I mean, I'm trying to think of TV people that do stuff, and forget about the 6 o'clock news. I mean, they're just, you know, it's 22 minutes of weather and traffic. But, you know, none of the Boston Globe columnists ever come on and defend their work, even though it's garbage. And the folks at WBUR and WGBH radio, it's like their reporting is straight propaganda. And I tweeted this out earlier this week for the Boston area. They are going to fluff the Boston candidates and the governor candidates here in Massachusetts because they know they're going to get shellacked nationally. and it's just going to be gross. It's just, I mean, yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's go to, all right, let me do this. I got to hit, you want to hear the audio? Do you need to see the clip or just hear the audio, Kaitlin?
I can hear the audio.
Okay. It's a little easier if I do that. Just share sound, computer audio. All right, here we go.
No, I'm done with COVID. I'm done. It's like I went so hard on COVID. I remember. Sprayed the Pringles cans that I bought at the grocery store, stripped my clothes off because I thought COVID would be on my clothes. Like, I did it all. I watched Tiger King. I got to the end of Spotify. Like, we all did it, right? And
no, we didn't all do it.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of us did do it. And then we were told, you get the vaccine. You get the vaccine and you get back to normal. And we haven't gotten back to normal. And it's ridiculous at this point. I know that so many of my liberal and progressive friends are with me on this, and they do not want to say it out loud because they are scared to be called anti-vax or to be called science denial or to be, smeared as a Trumper. I'm sorry, if you believe the science, you will look at the data that we did not have 2 years ago, and you will find out that cloth masks do not do anything. You will realize that you can show your vaccine passport at a restaurant and still be asymptomatic and carrying Omicron. And you will realize, most importantly, that this is going to be remembered by the younger generation as a catastrophic moral crime. The city of Flint, Michigan, which is 80%, I think, minority students, has just announced indefinite virtual schooling. In the past 2 years, we've seen among young girls a 51% increase in self-harm. People are killing themselves. They are anxious. They are depressed. They are lonely. That is why we need to end it more than any inconvenience that it's been to the rest of us. I think it's a pandemic. It's like, at this point, it's a pandemic of bureaucracy. It's a pandemic of bureaucracy.
So, really good good stuff from her.
When she brings up the effect it has on kids, I don't think a lot of people really understand that. So, like, when you talk about like putting masks on like a 5-year-old, and then you have like some stupid liberal be like, well, my 5-year-old loves wearing a mask and all this other stuff. No one gives a shit about your random 5-year-old like that loves wearing a mask. Your kid.
No, by the way, they don't. It's just
your kid is not going to tell you the truth on wearing a mask because you're forcing the opinion on them.
Yeah.
When they look back 15 years later and they're socially stunted because they don't understand facial expression, except for when they're speaking with you and they're not with their peers, they're going to blame you. And I think we're headed for some really big social issues. These younger kids, they want this to stop. Like, it is detrimental to their development. Literally last year, I had to read a report or a article in the New York Times about kids killing themselves in Las Vegas. So is that worth you feeling safe with your cloth mask on?
Yeah.
It's not. And so at what point do we say that this is theater?
Oh, the people who have been right about this from the beginning, which is us and those on the right, have been saying this from the beginning, and the scolds and the COVIDians on the left, who never stopped their moral preening about how superior they are because they wear their mask. And I swear to fucking God, I swear this, I saw a prominent, a progressive of notoriety locally talking about how they're one of their family members had COVID and they used it to plug their policy of paid family leave. Like, that was their tweet. I was like,
so wait a minute, their family member got COVID and they plugged paid family medical leave.
This is why we need paid family leave, right? And I was like, oh, just so happens to coincide with whatever.
You weren't going to go over to fucking help your family. Give me a break. You were going to sit on your ass, wear 5 masks around them and not do jack shit. Yeah. This is starting to become, it is insane, Jeff. Like,
it's been insane for far too long.
And that's the thing, like, Bari Weiss is completely right. We were sold on the vaccines that we would return to normal, and look at you and I in Massachusetts looking down vaccine passports in the city of Boston, in Salem.
It's disgusting.
And so
it's disgusting.
Right. And so at that point, like, is that a return to normal? I never had to do this beforehand. That is not a return to normal. Me wearing masks and showing my vaccine card, that's not normal. And we don't have to pretend it's normal.
No.
And I think that's one of the things that people need to start saying. It is not normal, and we don't have to pretend it's normal.
I'll tell you, if any politician out there, and there are a fair amount of them that watch this show, even though we don't have a wide audience, we have a very specific audience that pays attention to what we say. You're going to pay dearly for this if you don't. Let me be very clear about this. If you agree with us and you don't do what you think you should, don't do the right thing, which is if you agree with us,
but you publicly say something else, that is an issue, and you are going to politically pay for that.
Yep.
Because eventually, over time, everyone's going to understand that now Omicron is on the same level as a sinus infection.
Yeah.
So if you're not vaccinated, you could be hospitalized, but it's essentially just being sick for a few days and then you go back to work. So did we ever stop the world and have to ask for vaccination certificates for the flu before COVID? The answer is no, and it's not normal. We don't have to pretend it's normal either.
No, they're going to pay a steep price. There are those, and they're progressives. Now, I don't know who Bari Weiss is talking to, that progressives are tired of this and that, because every progressive I know, they're in that Rasmussen poll that wants to throw people in a camp if they don't want to get vaccinated, take away their kids. They should lose their job. Do you see that poll from a week or two ago?
I think the authoritarian progressives are the ones that want to do that. I think the more libertarian progressives, there are people that are out there like that.
You'll have to introduce me to them, because I don't know.
There's one progressive that I know that agrees with me on this COVID mask stuff and all of the vaccinations. He's vaccinated. We're all vaccinated here. We're not saying that vaccinations are bad. We want treatments, and so we, in order to return to normal, we should be returning to normal. If we're not returning to normal, everything that we're doing here is not normal, and we don't have to pretend it is.
The vaccines have kept hospitalizations down to a tremendous degree. That should be applauded, and we should use those for that, but we have to focus on treatment, like I've said earlier, and it needs to be treatment. The shift needs to be focused to treatment, period. End of story, period. These progressives who want to hold on to it because they want to pretend that this is worse than it is, so that they can have power, they can feel morally superior to everybody. Look, you get to literally have a signal on your phone for a vaccine passports that shows your virtue. Your virtue's right there on your phone. You're showing it to them in the process of it. It's a virtue passport.
The same people don't give a shit because everyone else in the state of Massachusetts is vaccinated. We have one of the highest.
It's like 85. Is it over 80% here? What's the stat here?
I think the first shot is over 80%. I think fully vaccinated is over 70%. I mean, I was comparing the state of Massachusetts to the country of Australia, where they have quarantine camps, which is like literally one of the most insane policies. I mean, Australia has insane biosphere policies in general, but like it's insane. The people there are still getting COVID. It's what's the point anymore? So at that point, you need to focus on pushing treatments and getting those approved, and then focus on basic like public health campaigns. That's one of the things that none of these people are doing. So what are they doing? Pushing masks and vaccine passports. Like I have to pretend it's normal to show my vaccine status to go into a restaurant and say, like, that is insane, Jeff.
But Bari,
I don't do this every single morning. I go into Starbucks on Canal Street. Like, I don't do this. Like, and I specifically don't wear the mask correctly until someone tells me otherwise. Like, I specifically don't do it. I will chin diaper it, or I'll wear it underneath my nose, because this is ridiculous.
I do not wear the mask at all.
Well,
let me say,
I
will say this. Because I've been symptomatic. If I'm around folks, look, I don't want to be coughing on anybody, because this does have a little bit of a cough, not a bad cough. But yeah, I'm going to keep that in a little bit, but I'm literally symptomatic. And Weiss was talking about how if you're asymptomatic, you can go, it doesn't matter, you can go and show your passport, sit down at a restaurant and spread Omicron. Well, look,
you
if
could
asymptomatic,
not you had it. If you're asymptomatic and you don't know you have it, that's what happens.
Let me point out though, I wore not the cloth mask, N95. N95s do actually work, but they're really hard to breathe through because they work. Because
N95s are what literal doctors use in hospitals because they're about to go into surgery. Like, why are we wearing these type of masks? It makes no sense. Like, I don't think it's helping with the spread of Omicron at all. We're seeing this data. It's breaking through the vaccine. So at some point, like, what's the point?
The point, I think, is control. The point is fear. There's a lot of people that really love it, and there's a disproportionate amount of those people on Twitter tweeting at politicians. So the feedback loop is distorted. Like Bari Weiss, I think, represents what most of America is feeling. But if you're a politician or a politician's advisor and you're on Twitter, you're on social media all the time, which, or you're a journalist and you just kind of naturally are, it skews your an outsized voice of who is pushing who on what issue. Not to mention all the bots and things that, like, anything with like Bill 1234789, be wary. And they have like 42 followers. You always got to be wary of those. But those they manipulate the algorithm, and you see more.
I do agree with your point. When everything started coming out about this and we were really scared in the beginning, all of us were really concerned. We followed the rules. We did exactly what we were supposed to.
Yep.
But the thing is that when the data shows us that it's not helping, or, we're not returning to normal as we should, as promised by these politicians, then that's a problem. And so this video was refreshing. Finally, someone says the same thing.
And there are some on the right who I saw some woman who I forget who was. I'll figure out who it was about, but she was like knocking Bari Weiss because Bari Weiss, I guess, is a progressive or a liberal, and not to trust.
She's a basic liberal. She's not like. What I mean?
But they're like, oh, don't trust her. Oh, finally, she's right on this. I'm like, well, she's been right on like free speech and cancel culture for a while. I mean, maybe we disagree on like tax policy. I don't know. But, if I can agree with liberals on free speech, like Bill Maher, like we probably don't have the same healthcare policy. But if we can agree that we should, be allowed to say whatever we want and debate issues, and nobody should be fired because of their political viewpoints, I think that's a pretty good common ground to have. And then you just get the populist based hardos who are like, will go after say you can't agree with them because they're wrong on a bunch of other issues, which is nonsense. Which is a reasonable crowbarred way to get into our next topic, which is the possible war in Ukraine.
Very concerning what's going on right now. The evacuation of diplomats' families yesterday by the Biden administration, the call for that, basically tells me that they think that the situation on the ground is very, very dangerous, and the threat of invasion is imminent. And so, because you don't do that until you do it last minute. The Biden administration really fucked up the Afghanistan withdrawal because they left everyone there and then they pulled the troops, which was really fucking stupid. But now they're a little bit more on the ball, a little bit. And they're deciding to voluntarily evacuate them early. Right now, there's a lot of problems in NATO, and the biggest problem in NATO is Germany, because Germany right now gets a lot of natural gas from Russia. And so that is a huge problem. And I think a lot of people need to understand that Germany getting a lot of natural gas from Russia is a huge problem. Okay, that is what is going to break apart NATO more than anything else. And we need to realize that. We need Germany and NATO for its strategic position. But if the people of Germany are not going to abide by NATO, then what is the point of the alliance anymore? And that's what I think a lot of big questions are being asked right now. And so what you see is Germany not allowing even smaller countries because Germany is actually a huge arms dealer in Europe, not allowing smaller countries that get their arms to give them to Ukraine.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was disconcerting that they're not going to arm the Ukrainians.
I've been signaling the alarm on Germany for years because they fucking suck. I hate the country of Germany for what they do with their energy portfolio, and they're literally allowing Russia's influence to come into Western Europe. That's a huge problem. And yeah, so the threat of invasion is imminent. I saw videos yesterday of Russian tanks going through Belarus, and this is. I mean,
that's what they claim. That's where the claim is, right? You know, those videos. So sometimes I always take those videos with a grain of salt. I don't know when they were shot. You assume that they're recent. Like if you take the video at face value, yeah, it looked like a bunch of armor, trucks, tanks was on a railroad. Moving through Belarus. So
yeah, and so we don't know what's going to happen. I think that the United States asking for them to voluntarily evacuate families, that is the big signal to me.
I'm curious about this because we as Americans have an ethnocentric view of world history and European history. We tend to think the world started in 1776. We do. I'm sorry. I'll admit it, and it's absolutely did not. And there's centuries of history and warfare and culture intertwined with, especially in like Eastern Europe. So, it becomes fascinating because when you look at Hitler had the war on two fronts, right? So he went down southeast into like Belarus and Ukraine, and the former Soviet satellite states, probably, I guess, were they Soviet?
Yeah,
satellite?
he pushed west.
Right,
he took the Sudetenland first, and then went into Austria and all.
So
yeah,
and he justified it. He says, well, like that the Russians were like more culturally like them. Like there was a weird. I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but like Bavarian. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Germans had now, without getting into like a lot of the history and whatever, Germany used to be kind of divided up into like provinces. And so a lot of the Germans felt like Eastern Europeans were a lot like Germans.
Correct.
And their royal families married into their royal families.
Correct. Yep.
Like Bulgaria was always kind of its own country. Ukraine kind of was in with Russia. They always hated the Poles. And so, yeah, I mean...
I bring that
Hitler
up.
Ran through that, and then the Soviet Union, after World War II, as they decided to push Hitler back, adopted all these satellite states into the Soviet Union. And that's the thing. Russia and Putin literally thinks that the Ukraine is Russia.
This is a part of it, right? So that I can't. Right. So you hit my point. I think that the Russians view Ukraine as Ukraine, like them viewing Ukraine as a country as us viewing like Illinois as a separate country. Like, no, it's part of the United States. Like I think they view it as a part of Russia, and I think a non-insignificant portion of Ukrainians view Ukraine as a part of Russia. Now, I don't know if that's like 10% or 35%, but it's enough to make a huge difference there. I'm curious how fierce the fighting will be between the Ukrainian military and the Russians. I
think the Ukrainian military. So, okay. The Russian military is very scary. I haven't really kept up with the Ukrainian military's training. But if it's a old Soviet bloc, I think their military.
They're let me tell you, the guys in that they're all these militaries, our military, they're hardcore, right? So I have no doubt that there's thousands of super tough guys in the Ukrainian military. What can they? Yeah, but the thing is, they're not bulletproof, and I don't know how many. I don't know how many.
The backing of China is the most concerning part of this.
Yeah.
I mean, like Russia's economy. Okay, so I was looking at data on inflation actually this morning, and Russia has an inflationary rate that's similar to ours, and so their economy is not doing very well right now, and they're still pushing this invasion, and so that means that they're being backed by another country and another rich country, and we know it's China because China buys oil from Russia. A lot of this
has that been reported, or is that?
Yeah, it was reported a long time ago that China gets a lot of oil from Russia. I think this was like before summer last year by the Wall Street Journal, and so and that stuff matters. The old resources that pushed war and all of this, that stuff still matters. And so I think the current Democratic Party that's in power right now, they have moved into this like weird, strange internationalism that's not working because the world is moving back from that post-World War II internationalism into a slight bit of nationalistic view of the world. I think that's where international politics is moving.
It's the Obama naivete, like similar to Iran. Well,
right.
Like the Iran deal. Yeah, the Iran deal will work because Obama negotiated it. Well, no, they don't care. Like
they don't care.
They don't care.
These countries that are based on cultures don't care, and I think that real politics, you need to be very. And that's one of the things I actually agreed with Hillary Clinton on, because I don't think that she had the same view of the world. She actually had similar to a Republican's view on that foreign policy, and so yeah, I mean it's bad.
I mean, assuming this
one thing I agreed with Hillary Clinton on.
Yeah. Assuming this thing pops off in the next week or so, which it looks like it does, and I pray that it doesn't.
The footage is going to be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I would yourself.
So Eric Erickson tweeted something, I think, this morning about, and this is where it gets murky because these types of conflicts going unchecked oftentimes lead to bigger conflicts. Like, so say Russia invades Ukraine. 6 months, 12 months from now, China invades Taiwan.
It's bad. I mean, it's bad.
At some point they're do these powers that they just be like, all right, well, if no one's going to stop us, let's just take stuff we want. They're
pressing the button right now because they know. So they're pressing the button right now because they know that. So they know that Biden is very weak on foreign policy. Biden's entire time in DC was weak on foreign policy. He could have headed that Senate Committee on Foreign Policy for years. He was weak on it. The reason why he was weak on it because he's a retail politician, never had any principles. That is a huge issue. Okay, when you don't have principles or values and everything is for sale, that's a huge fucking problem. Because at least Donald Trump had the value and the principle that America, we should believe in our country. Joe Biden, I don't get that. I don't get that semblance from him because he's really bought into this woke progressive nonsense, and his opinion keeps changing over time. Okay, so the thing with Donald Trump was, and I think that was actually one of the good times that he used Twitter, was that he told North Korea is like, if you fuck with us, I have a button and I will press it.
He'll melt you.
And that's where,
I didn't like that. I was like, everybody freaked out when he said that, but I was like, I kind of was like, okay, I get it. He's talking. He's talking like they talk. So you have a President Obama for 8 years, followed directly by Trump, and what the Democrats don't seem to get. And the reason why I talked about what I just said a second ago, say Russia invades Ukraine. Say they take it. I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe, the Ukrainians fight hard, give them some major losses, make it painful, and they pull out. That's a real possibility. It's not a guarantee that Russia takes that over. There could be some serious fighting, and they could lose. But say, that's a signal. But say they're done and they take it over, and then China wants to invade Taiwan, right? So that ripple effect of where does it stop? Because we view it as like, well, now it's the year 2022. We're more evolved. We're progressive. We're woke. Aren't you people woke? Don't you understand what
which is so naive, Jeff. It
right,
is
right,
so naive.
right. So the rest of the world doesn't even think that way. They have no idea about even a liberal democracy. It's just,
well, they utilize liberal democracy to their own benefit and corrupt it, right? So like in Russia, Putin, that's where you have election security issue. Like Putin rigs elections in his favor. He rigs elections he can install his puppets in his favor. The Chinese Communist Party is a one-party state in China, and they don't have liberal democracy in the way that they think. They say they have democracy, and American progressives like toe that line saying they have democracy, which is fucking bullshit.
There is sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I want to get to my point. And so they utilize these things in order to promote and progress their countries within like a modern international state, but they still base their entire ideology on their cultures.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that Americans don't understand. They don't have liberal democracy over in Russia because they don't believe in liberal democracy.
Correct.
They never did.
Correct.
And so like even the progressive monarch or czars that were in Russia that did do that did progress the country, not in the way that you think, It was always encircled around their culture. And in China, that's what they do. They encircle their culture. Right now, their form of Marxism is very nationalistic and very capitalistic in the fact, and it's almost like fascism, right? Like that's what Xi is doing right now. And so the United States really needs to focus our foreign policy on confronting that side of the world. It is very much East versus West again. And that's what scares me about the Democrats is that they do not realize it. And they will not force the issue on Europe, making them choose a side. I think I think Macron in France realizes this too, Jeff. And I do think that he does, but they know that Biden is not a strong leader. And that's the big problem.
You literally made the point I was going to make. So there you go. So I'm me cutting into it. So I'm glad.
We don't realize.
Yeah. This is the
our country is based on a foundation of ideas and principles. Okay. Like, we have these enshrined in our constitution. We are not based on a culture, like we kind of sort of Americanism, but that Americanism
it's still around ideas. It's still around ideas.
Like I'm Cajun. Okay. Like my grandparents spoke French in the United States, but we're Americans. Okay. So like, we're not derived around a culture of an ethnicity. We're derived around ideas. It is very scary to me that, the Democrats are not really understanding that going up against, and I think that if Russia invades Ukraine, midterms aren't going to be great for Dems because they're going to see their weakness. If China invades Taiwan after this, yeah, they're done. They're electorally shellacked. Like it is worse than we know.
Just one to build, put a little cherry on the top of the cake of your point. The only thing these people understand is force, that
Americans don't understand. They think we're past this use of force, past the use of deterrence in foreign policy, hard power, and all of this stuff. We're not past it, and we need to be very honest about not being past it. And so that's one of the things that Donald Trump, when he used deterrence on an Iranian general, aggressively going against our embassy in Iraq, press the button, kill that man. He is a terrorist. He is on our terrorist list. There is no second question there that he was going to be blown up because he entered and threatened our embassy. And that's the thing I did like about Donald Trump. I do have to say this, Jeff. Let me make my entire point.
Sure, sorry. Keep going.
Is that he used deterrence, and their administration used deterrence in the right way. Do not fuck with American property overseas. Do not fuck with Americans overseas at all, or we are going to come for you and we will do a decisive action that will force you into a position. That is one of the things that Republicans need to have going forward. You don't have to invade and nation build, okay? But you need to have a line of deterrence in foreign policy that shows that we are a strong nation. And I don't think Democrats, good Lord, if an American's head gets touched in Ukraine and Biden doesn't do anything,
he won't do anything. He won't.
He won't do anything. That's what the scary thing is like he can't stand up for America. He can't even stand up for Americans over in Afghanistan. Like it is very scary.
But right now, I'm already seeing it. On the right, I saw Sorab tweet something today, and the populist isolationists. There's a huge spectrum. Let me get my hands in frame here. There's a huge spectrum between American boots on the ground and shooting and doing nothing. There's a bunch of different steps you can take, and the first one, we could arm the Ukrainians if they're in for the fight. We can arm them to the teeth.
Yeah, we should be sending weapons over to them. Yep. We don't have to go in and do their military's work for them.
Yep.
But at the same time, we should be arming them to the teeth. I think the Biden administration has been slow on this, and it has been negligent to the point of being slow on this. They are an ally over in Eastern Europe, whether they like it or not. Like, not saying that we need to go and do their job for them, but you send them weapons. The fact that Biden has literally this week decided to start sending them weapons has been deplorable, Jeff. We have been working on the British, like literally the British have been like taking over for us. And that should not be a thing.
Especially with the relationship Hunter Biden has with the Ukrainians.
Oh my God, Jeff.
I mean, they're buddy. He should know them. They should be over there. They should be over there helping him out, Joe.
I mean, the British have really taken the lead on this.
But how much can the British can't? The British can't help them to the degree that
the British can't help. The British can't do a lot without us, and that is the biggest. It frustrates the shit out of me because I find this embarrassing. Like you got elected based on the point that you were going to bring prominence of the United States back on the international stage, and it's not happening. No. So stop fucking lying about this.
I really hope Putin, changes his mind. Or not even though the mind might not be made up. I hope this was just a he's done this every few years. Sometimes he pulls, he invaded Georgia, but sometimes they don't. He moves troops around to rattle the cage, just saber rattling. I'm hoping this is saber rattling. I really do.
I think the Ukraine had a Kremlin promoted puppet before, and they want to make sure that happens again.
Right.
And that's based on the reporting yesterday from the Wall Street Journal about the Brits having intelligence.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I saw that, yep.
Yeah, intelligence there. So, again, we're working off of the Brits. It should be the other way around, but we also have an administration right now that's very inept. So, yay.
Okay. All right. Pray for Ukraine. I don't even want to do a hashtag because there are.
Sorry, I had to rant, Jeff.
No, I was actually going to make the points you were making. No, you're spot on. I'm not going to, this is one thing that sucks about Zoom is when we do these things. It's just like, the face-to-face interactions are always much better. But, you got to kind of always say, what was that? We've all been on Zoom meetings. What? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. But no, you're spot on. Yeah. I mean, I really hope that this is just saber rattling and we get past this, but it may not be.
Think it is. I'm very concerned.
Yeah. If this turns off to a hot war, the ripple effects could be disastrous. And it'll definitely affect global markets. I mean, they're gonna start doing things like blowing up pipelines, and
it's going to affect global markets at a point where we have inflation, and we're about to do Fed hikes, guys.
When there's a supply crunch with inflation, boy,
right?
Watch out. Okay, all right. Hey, we just recorded a very good episode on the Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/RINOpod, only $1 a month. Thank you to all of our loyal patrons over there and our subscribers here. We'll be back, I guess, next week with another fabulous politically filled episode of your favorite Sunday political talk show, the RINO Podcast. We thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.